Consider the very foundations of your liberty, the mechanisms that safeguard your fundamental freedoms. These pillars of modern democracy, remarkably, trace back to an overlooked architect of political thought. Born into the opulent world of 18th century France, Charles-Louis de Secondat, Baron de Montesquieu, would emerge as one of history's most influential yet unsung political philosophers. On January the 18th, 1689, beneath the grand spires of Château de la Brède, near Bordeaux, began a life destined to reshape the very concept of governance. Born into nobility, young Montesquieu's path was altered dramatically when, at just 7 years old, his mother's death left him heir to both tremendous privilege and weighty responsibility. From these somber beginnings would rise the mind that conceived the blueprint for modern democratic systems, a legacy that continues to protect freedoms across the globe. His story is not merely a historical account, but rather a testament to how profound ideas can transcend centuries, shaping the very framework of liberty we cherish today. Join us as we unravel the remarkable journey of this hidden hand of history, the forgotten architect whose principles still guard our democratic ideals. Through his life and thoughts, we'll discover how one nobleman's vision evolved into the cornerstone of modern constitutional democracy. Charles-Louis de Secondat entered life at the pinnacle of French society, born into a nobility where privilege and duty intertwined. His father, Jacques, a distinguished military officer, and his mother, Marie-Françoise, brought to their union not just noble lineage, but also the magnificent Château de la Brède. Yet fate would soon cast its shadow. At merely 7 years old, young Charles-Louis faced his mother's untimely death, inheriting both immense fortune and profound responsibility. Within the hallowed halls of the Oratorian Collège de Juillet, among France's most prestigious institutions, Montesquieu's mind was shaped by classical education. Here, immersed in literature, science, and humanities, he encountered the revolutionary ideas of the Enlightenment, challenging conventional wisdom at every turn. By 1708, he had earned his law degree from the University of Bordeaux, following his family's distinguished legal tradition. At 27, destiny intervened again. His uncle's passing bestowed upon him not only the title of Baron de Montesquieu, but also the prestigious position of Président à Mortier in the Parliament of Bordeaux. Unlike many nobles who treated such roles as mere ceremony, Montesquieu embraced his judicial duties with remarkable dedication. For over a decade, he immersed himself in France's legal labyrinth, gaining unprecedented insight into justice's practical workings. Beyond the courtroom, Montesquieu proved himself a capable estate manager, particularly in the renowned Bordeaux wine region. His hands-on involvement in viticulture provided him rare economic independence, freeing him from the usual constraints of patronage. This financial autonomy would prove crucial, allowing him to critique societal structures without fear of repercussion. Through these parallel roles, judge and landowner, Montesquieu developed a unique understanding of governance's practical challenges. His daily interactions, whether in legal proceedings or among his vineyard workers, revealed how laws directly impact lives. This practical experience, combined with his intellectual prowess, would later inform his revolutionary ideas about government and society, setting the stage for his most influential works. In 1721, a literary bombshell detonated across European intellectual circles. Published anonymously, Persian Letters emerged as a masterwork of satirical genius that would transform political discourse. Through the ingenious device of two fictional Persian travelers, Uzbek and Rika, Montesquieu crafted a mirror reflecting the absurdities of French society, while cleverly evading censorship. The novel's brilliance lay in its innovative use of outsiders' perspectives. Through the wide-eyed observations of his Persian protagonists, Montesquieu employed a literary technique known as defamiliarization, allowing readers to see their own society stripped of familiarity's comfortable veil. The Persians' letters home detailed their bewilderment at French customs, from the extravagance of Versailles to the rigid hierarchies of social class and the overwhelming influence of the Catholic Church. Beneath its entertaining surface, Persian Letters delivered a sophisticated critique of absolutism and unchecked power. Through his characters' observations, Montesquieu subtly but systematically exposed the excesses of Louis XIV's reign and the inherent injustices of aristocratic privilege. The novel's examination of religious institutions was equally pointed as the Persians' puzzlement over Catholic rituals and their persecution of heretics served to highlight religious intolerance and dogmatic thinking. Particularly innovative was Montesquieu's treatment of gender relations and power dynamics. Through the subplot of Uzbek's harem in Persia, he created a microcosm of tyranny and control. The eventual rebellion of the wives against their master's oppressive rule served as a powerful allegory for resistance against authoritarian power, exploring themes of liberty and autonomy at both personal and societal levels. The immediate success of Persian Letters established Montesquieu as a formidable intellectual force, even while his identity remained concealed. His masterful blend of wit, storytelling, and incisive social commentary created a new model for political criticism, one that would influence generations of writers and thinkers to come. In 1726, having sold his judicial office, Montesquieu embarked on an extraordinary intellectual odyssey that would transform political thought forever. His grand tour of Europe, spanning from 1728 to 1731, took him through Austria, Hungary, Italy, the Netherlands, Germany, and most crucially, England. This was no mere aristocratic pleasure trip, but rather a deliberate quest for understanding how different societies govern themselves. In the Habsburg domains of Austria and Hungary, Montesquieu immersed himself in studying economic systems, particularly the intricate operations of mining industries. His observations of how the empire managed its diverse ethnic populations provided vital insights into the challenges of governing heterogeneous societies. Italy offered him a laboratory of republican governance through its city-states, while the German territories demonstrated the complexities of fragmented sovereignty within the Holy Roman Empire. However, it was England that captured Montesquieu's imagination most profoundly. Here, he discovered a political system that seemed to have achieved what others merely dreamed of: a functional balance of power. He spent considerable time attending parliamentary sessions, engaging with leading intellectuals, and studying how England's constitutional monarchy operated in practice. The English system, emerging from the Glorious Revolution of 1688, presented a living example of how monarchical authority could be effectively constrained by law and custom. Montesquieu's keen eye noted how English institutions worked together while maintaining their independence. He observed the delicate dance between crown, parliament, and courts, analyzing how each institution checked the other's power while fulfilling its own vital role. This extended study of England's political machinery would later prove instrumental in developing his revolutionary theory of separated powers. Through his travels, Montesquieu accumulated a wealth of comparative knowledge about governance, commerce, and society. His observations went far beyond superficial tourism, forming the empirical foundation for his later theoretical work. The Grand Tour transformed Montesquieu from a provincial French nobleman into a truly European intellectual, equipped with first-hand knowledge of the continent's diverse political systems. After years of meticulous research and reflection, Montesquieu unveiled his masterpiece in 1748, The Spirit of the Laws. This monumental work, the product of 14 years of intensive study, represented far more than a mere treatise on government. It was nothing less than a revolutionary examination of how laws and societies fundamentally interact. Unlike his predecessors who sought to prescribe ideal systems, Montesquieu took a radical approach. He argued that laws must be understood within their specific social, cultural, and environmental contexts. This wasn't just theory, it was a comprehensive analysis of how different societies actually functioned, drawn from his years of observation and study. At the heart of this work lay his most enduring contribution, the theory of separation of powers. Montesquieu proposed that governmental authority must be divided into three distinct branches: legislative, executive, and judicial. Each branch would operate independently, yet possess the means to check the other's power. This wasn't merely about dividing responsibility. It was about creating a dynamic system of checks and balances to prevent the rise of tyranny. Montesquieu delved deeper, classifying governments into three fundamental types: republics, monarchies, and despotisms. Each, he argued, operated according to different principles: virtue for republics, honor for monarchies, and fear for despotisms. This wasn't just classification for its own sake. It was a profound analysis of how different forms of government shaped and were shaped by their societies. His analysis extended to the influence of climate and geography on human societies, a theory that, while controversial today, represented one of the first attempts to understand how environmental factors affect political and social development. He argued that climate influenced human behavior, and consequently, the types of laws and governments that emerged in different regions. Perhaps most significantly, Montesquieu championed the concept of moderation in governance. He insisted that power must be constrained by law, that individual rights must be protected, and that justice must be administered fairly and impartially. His critique of despotism was particularly pointed, warning against the dangers of unchecked authority in any form. The Spirit of the Laws wasn't just a political treatise. It was a comprehensive examination of how societies function and how they might be governed justly. Its influence would extend far beyond its time, shaping constitutional governments worldwide and establishing principles that continue to guide political thought today. Despite facing significant opposition, including being placed on the Catholic Church's Index of Prohibited Books, Montesquieu's Magnum Opus spread rapidly across Europe and beyond. Its ideas would soon find practical application in the constitutions of new nations, most notably in the United States, where his principles of separated powers would become foundational to the American system of government. From the vast landscape of political philosophy, Montesquieu's theory of separation of powers emerged as a beacon that would illuminate the path to modern democratic governance. This revolutionary concept would find its most profound expression in the architecture of the United States Constitution, forever changing how nations structured their governments. When the framers of the American Constitution gathered in 1787, they faced an unprecedented challenge, creating a government that could wield authority while preserving individual liberty. James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and their fellow architects of American democracy turned to Montesquieu's writings for guidance. In the Federalist Papers, they explicitly cited his theories, recognizing their practical wisdom in preventing tyranny. The resulting system divided federal power into 3 distinct branches, each serving as a check on the others. The legislative branch, consisting of Congress, was tasked with creating laws. The executive branch, led by the president, would enforce these laws. The judicial branch, crowned by the Supreme Court, would interpret them. This wasn't mere administrative efficiency. It was a carefully crafted mechanism to prevent the concentration of power that Montesquieu had warned against. But Montesquieu's influence extended far beyond American shores. As nations worldwide sought to establish or reform their governments, his principles became fundamental guidelines. From the French Republic's eventual emergence from revolution to the constitutional monarchies of Europe, his ideas shaped how modern states balanced power and protected liberty. Perhaps most remarkably, Montesquieu's concepts have proven adaptable to diverse cultural and political contexts. Whether in established democracies or emerging nations, his emphasis on checks and balances has been crucial in preventing authoritarian overreach. His recognition that different societies require different approaches to governance has helped nations develop systems suited to their unique circumstances. Today, as democracies face new challenges from technological change, global terrorism, and rising authoritarianism, Montesquieu's warnings about the dangers of concentrated power remain startlingly relevant. His insistence on independent courts, legislative oversight, and executive restraint continues to guide efforts to preserve democratic institutions and protect individual rights in an increasingly complex world. Montesquieu's influence extends far beyond the realm of political structures, reaching into the very foundations of how we understand human society. His methodological approach in analyzing different cultures and governments laid the groundwork for modern social sciences, pioneering techniques still used in sociology and anthropology today. By emphasizing empirical observation and comparative analysis, Montesquieu revolutionized the study of human societies. He insisted that laws and institutions must be understood within their specific historical, cultural, and environmental contexts. A radical departure from the purely philosophical or theological explanations of his time. This approach would later influence great sociological thinkers like Auguste Comte and Max Weber. Perhaps most remarkably, Montesquieu's insights continue to resonate in contemporary political discourse. As democratic institutions face mounting challenges from authoritarian tendencies and the erosion of civil liberties, his warnings about concentrated power seem prophetic. His emphasis on the rule of law, ensuring that laws are fair, equally applied, and protective of individual rights, remains a cornerstone of just societies worldwide. In academia, Montesquieu's works remain essential reading in political philosophy, law, and history curricula. His theories provide students with fundamental tools for understanding the complex relationships between governance, society, and law. Even his literary contributions, particularly his masterful use of satire in Persian letters, continue to influence how writers approach social criticism. Yet, we must also acknowledge the limitations of his thought. His climate theory, linking geographical conditions to societal characteristics, reflects the environmental determinism of his era. His sometimes Eurocentric perspectives remind us that even great thinkers are products of their time. However, these shortcomings don't diminish his broader legacy. They enhance our understanding of how intellectual thought evolves. Today, as nations grapple with challenges to democracy, from surveillance states to emergency powers, Montesquieu's principles of balanced governance and protected liberties offer crucial guidance. His enduring legacy reminds us that the pursuit of just and balanced societies requires constant vigilance and thoughtful adaptation to changing circumstances. As we conclude our journey through Montesquieu's remarkable life and legacy, we're reminded of how profoundly one mind can shape the course of human history. His tireless dedication to understanding the intricate relationships between law, society, and governance produced insights that continue to protect our freedoms today. In an era where democratic principles face constant challenges, Montesquieu's warnings about concentrated power and his vision of balanced governance remain startlingly relevant. His work stands as both a guidebook for defending liberty and a reminder of our responsibility to safeguard these precious institutions. We invite you to continue exploring Montesquieu's ideas and their application to contemporary challenges. Consider how his principles might inform our responses to modern threats to democracy. If you found value in this exploration, please share it with others who might appreciate this journey through one of history's most influential political minds.